In this one, we will learn how to manage a simple number state with data binding, view models, and converters. To demonstrate the same, I've gone ahead and created an add to cart button. It will have two states, that is the default state, and then when it is clicked, it will become a number input. And there we have two buttons, that is a plus and minus icon, using which we can control the number that will be the number of items in our cart. Now, before we set everything up, let's go back to the design mode and take a look at the things we have. And if I disable the clip on the button content group right now, we'll have everything in view. That is the plus and minus icon, the text, which will be the number of items in our cart, and then the cart icon and the add to cart text, using which I've gone ahead and created 4 timelines. That is, first of all, we have a idle state, where we go ahead and simply key in the idle state of the add to cart button, and then a cart dash animation where we go ahead and simply slide down the add to cart text. The icon goes ahead and slides out of the container, and then we transition to the number input state. And that will be the change of the background rectangle, color, and stroke. And then the icons come into view as well as the text. And finally, another animation that simply goes ahead and resets that. That is, if we want to go back from this number input to the add to cart button, let's say the number is set to 0, we can do that at that time. We can go ahead and play this animation. That is, the cart comes back in view along with the text. First of all, we need to go ahead and set up a data view model and a property to control this text. That will be our state as well for this animation. So I can go to the data tab and create a view model. Let's go ahead and name it model, and then I can add a property inside of type number that will be our cart items. I can call it cart and then link up with this number input. So let's go back to the text, select the run, and then I can go ahead and right click on the same and data bind with the property we just created in the cart model. Before we do that, make sure we have added the view model to the artboard. Then I can go ahead and simply add our data bind that will be the cart property. Now, because this is a text and the cart property is a number, we have to apply a conversion that will be, I can add a new converter and convert to string at that. So let's go back to our text. And before I do that, I'll just go ahead and check this on the converter. Round the decimals to 0 places because we don't want any. So I can go back to the run, right click, update the bind, and then add our converter. And now this will work. So if I go ahead and create a state machine, play that, and then change the number property, I will change on the text as well. So that is our first step. We do want the number of items in the cart to be 0 at the start. That is the number property. And then when we click on the button and go to the number input state, only then it should be increased by 1, which we will achieve with converters. But before we do that, let's go ahead and set up the state machine transitions. I can start with the idle state, that is enter in the default state. Then on a click of a button, I can play the cart dash animation. And for that, I can go ahead and add e input. That will be a trigger. Let's call it on click. And for that, I can add a listener as well on this button hit area that I have added. So I can add a listener. The event will be click. And then when that happens, we can fire the on click input. Now I can use it in the condition from idle to cart dash. I can add a condition if on click event is fired. Then we perform the transition with a duration. So I can add that and then set a curve as well. Let's go ahead and test the same. If I go ahead and again enable the clipping on the group and then play the state machine, click on the button, we have the cart dash animation played. Next, we'll go ahead and transition to the number input state, that is the timeline. And I can do that after playing this animation at all. And to ensure that, I can simply add exit time on the transition, that is 100% of the cart dash animation. And then I can add some transition duration as well, because the rectangle will change its color with the icon's position. So let's do that. I can go ahead and play the state machine again. And if I click on the button, first of all, the cart dash animation plays, and then it transitions to the number input state. Now, as I mentioned before, when we do that, this number should increment by 1, that is from 0 to 1. And to do that, we will use converters. That is, I can go to the data panel and add a converter like we did before for the convert to string. So I can use a numeric converter this time because we want to increment a number, and for that we can use calculate. And then we can choose our operation, that is add in this case by default, and we want to add it by 1 as well. So by default, that's what we want. I can leave it to as is and change its name. Let's say add 1 or plus 1 like that. And then we can use it to perform this operation, that is increasing the number by 1. That should happen when we click on the button. So I can come to the listener and add another action along with firing the input. I can perform a change on the view model as well. That will be the property. So select that and then set a property, that will be the cart. And then I can set it to a value, that is a set value, which I can enter here. Let's say 1, 2, 3 or anything. Or I can perform some conversion on the same number. So instead of value, I can choose cart itself and then add a converter. That will be the plus 1. So select that and that's what will happen. So if I go ahead and now replay the state machine, click on the button, and before I do that, if I reveal the cart as well, notice how it will be increased by 1. And that will be the logic which we will use to change this number input. So if I go ahead and click on the plus icon, that is this plus icon of the number input, we can go ahead and again retrigger this flow right here, that is on the cart input. I can go ahead and plus 1, that is add. So let's set that up as well. I can go back to the icons and then I can go ahead and select the plus icon. And just for demonstration, I can disable the clipping, select the plus icon, and then add a listener. That will be a click listener. When we click that, we'll perform the same thing as we did before. So instead of input firing, I can add a view model change. That will be the cart. On the same value, we perform a conversion. That will be plus 1. Let's go ahead and test that out. Play the state machine, and then click on the button. And then the plus icon comes into the view. I can go ahead and click on it, and then the number increases as well. Now we want to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. If I click on the minus, it should decrement as well. It will be the same converter, but with a different operation. So I can go ahead and go to the data panel again and add another converter. That will be numeric calculate. And this time I will change the operation. Instead of add, it will be subtract. And that will be by 1 as well. So minus 1, I can name this converter that like this. And then set up the same listener for the minus icon as well. This one right here. So let's add a listener and then set the event to click. When that happens, we will go ahead and change the view model property, the cart. On the same thing, I can go ahead and perform a conversion, that is minus 1. Let's go ahead and test everything out. I can go ahead and again enable the clipping. And now if I go ahead and click on the button, we'll have the cart dash animation and then the number input. If I click on the plus, it becomes 2. If I click on it again, it becomes 3. Now if I click on minus, it will decrement as well. So I can control the number of items in the cart with these two icons, and that we have achieved with converters. Now if we go ahead and increment it when it is 1, then it will become 0. And at this point, we want it to go back to the add to cart button because it is removed from the cart. To do that, I can set up transitions. As I mentioned before, we have animation for that, cart back. So I can use the same. let's go ahead and put it here. And then for the transition, instead of a number input, we'll use the view model property. I can do that. So in the transition, I can add a condition, and that will be if the view model's cart changes, I can go ahead and set it to a value. Let's say if it is equals to a value 0, we can run this transition. That is the animation. If you have used the previous UI for creating conditions, this will be new. That is, first of all, we have the value we want to compare. In this case, the cart number input, and then the operation. Is it equals to it? Is it not equal to it? Is it equal and greater than that? And so on. If we want, we can also perform some conversions before we compare it. So I can go ahead and, let's say, divide it by 2. I can multiply it by 3 or anything else. In this case, we can just use the value as is and then compare it to a set value, 0 in this case. Or if we want, we can use a view model property as well. But in this case, we just want to compare it with the 0 number, that is a constant set value. So everything will be as is. Now, if I go ahead and play the state machine, click on the button, number input comes in, increase it, decrease it, and if I decrease it to 0, it will go back to add to cart. Now we need some animation for the transition, so let's add that. I can add some transition duration and then a easing curve and complete the whole transition flow, that is from cart back. After it has been played, we can go back to idle, and that after waiting for the animation to finish. So exit time, again, we will utilize that and set it to 100%. If I want, I can add some duration, that is transition duration, but nothing changes from this point, that is the end of this frame and this. So I can leave that here and then test the same. That is our whole transition flow with data binding and the converters. So we have this button, we click on it, we get the animation. Then I can go ahead and increase the number. I can decrease it as well. And if I decrease it below 1, it will go back to the add to cart state. And that's how we can use data binding and converters to manage state like we could not have done before.